Welcome back. A Cork mother of 4 has just finished her second walk from Cork to Dublin in a bid to further her 7-year-old daughter's fight to access medicinal cannabis.
Vera Twomey's daughter Ava suffers from a severe form of epilepsy called Dravet Syndrome, which can lead up to 20 seizures a day. Mum and Dad Vera and Paul believe this alternative form of medicine can significantly reduce their child's suffering, and Vera joins us now. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning, Vera.
Thanks for having us.
Now, your plight and that of Ava's was highlighted in the press very much this week, but can we just go back a bit and can you remind us why you decided to take on this mammoth task of walking from Cork to Dublin in the first place?
Well, I suppose Ava's condition, like you said, it's Dravet Syndrome. It's described as an intractable form of epilepsy. It's drug resistant, and all of Ava's pharmaceutical medications up to about a year ago now have failed to hold her seizures at bay. So I've done a lot of research about medicinal cannabis, seen it working for other families in Canada, in Europe, Australia, different places. You know, we began Ava on the CBD last October and saw a dramatic... Now, the CBD, of course, is legal in Ireland.
What is CBD?
CBD is cannabidiol.
Okay.
And we were using it, or are using it, for Ava in the form of Charlotte's Web. That's just the brand of product that we are using. Ava's seen a significant reduction in seizures.
That the seizures have reduced,
yeah.
Okay.
She would have probably had about 500 seizures every month previous to beginning this. And like that, the seizures are incredibly dangerous. Oxygen deprivation, when somebody is in a seizure, can lead to brain damage. It could lead to death. So seeing Ava's seizures reduced by up to about 90%, 80-90% on the CBD alone has meant that, you know, she's beginning to speak a little bit. She's interacting better with her sisters and brothers, her brother. She's just got a new lease of life, and the epilepsy isn't controlling her.
Okay, so that's the CBD side of it, and that's working well. So what more do you need for Ava?
What we need is the CBD at the moment is being purchased in a store in Dublin.
Right.
So I think that, you know, really what we want is for the doctors to be able to involve themselves in Ava's care. The doctors at the moment cannot prescribe THC because it is only legal up to 0.02% in this country.
Now, THC is the active ingredient in cannabis that recreational users use to get a high. Right?
It is.
So you want to use this with Ava, but at what levels do you need to use it, and why would you add this to her treatment?
The really important thing about it's tetrahydrocannabinoid is the full name for it, is that we're not seeking, obviously, to make our daughter high or anything like that. Quite far removed from that, of course. What THC does is it works in tandem with CBD, and they activate each other more effectively to reduce seizures further. And in fact, in other conditions like chronic pain or the multiple sclerosis or a lot of other conditions like that, it improves people's...
It's been accepted, hasn't it, Vera, like across the world in many countries, that the combination of these two is what is needed for people suffering from this syndrome. So what is the blockage? You've engaged regularly with Simon Harris on this, right? And he's told you he's going to help you every way he can. Has he? I mean, has he done what you need him to do?
Well, Simon has made a lot of promises to us, and I suppose, unfortunately, we don't have any practical solution. Okay,
When you were up there with them on Tuesday and with the representatives of the HSC, and they offered you 4 different options, but they're not necessarily going to aid you in getting what you need.
Well, in fact, over the last couple of days, we've had a consultation with our neurologist, spoke to a second neurologist, and the situation for Ava at the moment is this, that the neurologist cannot cover or support Ava's application. Like the reason that I began the walk was because Ava's application was rejected on the previous Thursday, and we had no options at all. And then, so there was nowhere to go for us with Ava. So I began the walk as a protest to gain some form of help from the government and from the HSE.
It was actually, you resumed the walk because you had started this walk before, and Simon Harris rang you to say, stop walking, we'll help you. Right?
He did last November.
And then you got to this point where, you know, the help that he had promised hadn't been forthcoming, so you said there's nothing else I could do apart from resume this walk.
That's true.
What has he said to you now? I mean, where do you stand right now with this?
When we attended the meeting, there was a gathering of, a cross-party gathering actually, of politicians, the HSE and the HPRA members. And at that meeting, there was a number of options outlined. Now, I was prepared to stay outside the gates of the Dáil that night to get what Ava needed. But again, I was put in the position that there was a list of options offered to me, and I had to go and exhaust those options before we could say for definite that we had nowhere to go. The first consultant won't prescribe it because they're saying that they don't have enough experience. The second consultant has suggested that if the HSE indemnify the hospital, then they would be able to allow us to go to Canada, in fact, to get...
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. This is the latest development. So there is a neurologist in Canada who might be willing to stand over this. But the problem is he's in Canada and you can't drive 10 minutes down the road with Ava without it being a big ordeal.
That's really true. The difficulty with that is now, again, Simon said that he would indemnify the hospital, but, you know, we'll see about that. But the doctor that's in Canada was willing to help. But as you're saying, if we left Habolog to come to Dublin, you know, in the car or anywhere, Ava could have 3 or 4 seizures going on a journey of that distance. So she isn't stable enough to fly a long distance like that. Not to mention the
expenses of flying over there.
The expenses would be something in the region, I'd say 50 to 60,000 euros at least. But anyway, aside from the expenses, she isn't well enough to do that. And then the Compassionate Access Programme, which I was utterly, it was shocking. I mean, I had gone through it and tried to understand it as best I could, but then to speak to both of the neurologists at the end of this week, both of them say that it's not a workable option at all, because the THC level that is necessary for intractable epilepsy such as ours, for other conditions, be they the MS or the side effects from chemotherapy, the nausea and vomiting, which was included in the HPRA report, they're saying they're not going to be able to prescribe this, even though the politicians are saying that they will. The doctors themselves are saying that they can't.
What's the next step? I mean, you have been through an ordeal. I mean, your leg gave up halfway through your walk. That's why we see you in a wheelchair. Your knee is in bits. So you've done physically, mentally, everything you can to this point. What will solve this?
The only resolution to this is legislation. The only answer to this, and from the conversations, and I mean the long conversations that we had with both the neurologists, the only answer to this is to change the law in Ireland.
So is Simon Harris prepared to do that?
Well, I mean, Simon Harris will really have to come to the point where he is going to be willing to do it.
Has he suggested that he might be open to that?
He suggested that he was going to bring the Compassionate Access Programme and the legislation to move them both forward together. And now, based on what... And he said that at the meeting, witnessed by, as I said, a number of other politicians. Now, it appears from the conversations that we've had with the neurologists that they're not going to be able to engage with this programme, this Compassionate Access Programme. So the only alternative is legislation.
Vera, can I ask you as well? I just wanted to ask you, because Ian mentioned there that, you know, obviously you're limping, you've got a sore knee, you've got a crutch. Was the walk worth it to get where you are? And as a mum of 4, because there are 3 other children and a husband as well at home, how is this taking a toll on you? How are you feeling mentally, emotionally, psychologically?
Well, I mean, you know, it was absolutely worth it. I mean, because... Paul and I knew that we had support, but I can honestly say to you that Paul and I didn't know
the level of support.
Yeah.
And of course it's incredibly emotional for you.
There was people coming out from shops, there was people waving, saluting, there was children coming out from the schools, which meant like that there was parents behind those children that supported Eva and supported our position.
Well, Vera, take heart in that you have left no stone unturned to do what you need to do as a mother for your daughter, and you will get there eventually. I know it's tough, I know it's hard, but you will get there. Look, we have to leave it at that now, but thank you so much for coming in.
I think that the most important point is that Gino Kenny's legislation is sitting there ready, and that all the government need to do is to embrace that legislation, and that if there need to be amendments made to it, they can sit around a table and discuss it and organise that, and let the people that are out there, let the people that stood outside the Dáil, because there was 2,000 people, I'd say, standing outside the Dáil behind us when we walked up there that day.
So you're not alone. And Vera, thank you so much
for sharing
your story, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thanks a million. Best of luck.